measuring,
Great,
making
Angelo,
his
I just try
claim.
to ask you something.
I'm going to specifically what he said was he took one hypothesis, the Earth, basically, he didn't even do that. He jumped to the conclusion without making a hypothesis. He said, water finds its level, therefore the Earth is flat. He didn't go the other way around.
I believe the Earth is flat.
If you make,
water
I believe
always finds its level. Water always finds its level. Therefore, the Earth is flat.
Okay.
So Angelo, would you agree that that's hold on, Angelo? Would you agree that that's an affirming the consequent logical fallacy?
No.
What he said is not.
No. What I'm saying, okay, if he's affirming the consequence. If he's affirming if he's making basically a logical fallacy, basically making a statement based on logic, yeah, of course he is.
He gave you absolute.
Hold on, I'm not quite finished yet.
Affirming the
for fuck's sakes,
to see if you knew basic
for
logic.
Fuck's sakes, I'd like to finish.
Like, great Angelo, just real quick, brother.
So, I'm going to finish what I had to say. He didn't. He failed by demonstrating. He failed by demonstrating a logical fallacy, but he didn't demonstrate any kind of scientific method, which is what we use when we make our claims. We don't touch logic. We do not touch logic when we make our scientific claims. We specifically make a hypothesis. I'm being talked over again. Someone mute the motherfucker before I get pissed.
You guys, wait, pause. No matter how wrong Great Angelo is, just let
shut
him finish
the fuck up
entirely. I'm trying to give you space to talk.
Yeah, well, shut up by the way you're doing it. Okay, you're being insulting. Okay, you don't like what I'm saying or you think I'm wrong, then tell me afterwards when you rebut, not when you fucking tell me to tell other people to shut up. You be respectful to this old man or you shut the fuck up yourself. Now, here's what I'm going to say.
Everybody stop for a second. Everybody just stop. Dude, Angelo, he was actually modding to say to people, don't interrupt even if you disagree. You misunderstood what he said.
Oh, no, he clearly insulted me.
He said, even if you think he's wrong, don't interrupt him. He was actually helping you to not be interrupted. Can we just reset? Go ahead, say your statement. Please try to keep it concise enough that other people want to respond. Just go ahead.
All right. The problem I'm having is that you can use logical, logical or illogical fallacies, whatever you want to use, as far as describing logic. Yes, but we're not talking about logic when we're trying to describe the shape of the Earth. Or for describing logic, yes, but we're not talking about logic when we're trying to describe the shape of the Earth, or for that matter, whether we believe it's flat or whether it's a globe. We use the scientific method. You use a hypothesis and you demonstrate experimentally to see if it supports your hypothesis. You don't jump to the conclusion and say, I'm going to find out that the Earth is flat. No, I am going to find out what the answer is and whether it's flat or if it's a globe.
Mike's going to interrupt the conversation for a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
Is it assumption or pre-assumption? Or presupposition, sorry.
Foucault's presupposition was this, okay? Since all astronomical evidence proves that the Earth is spinning, because he was on the side of astronomy that basically felt that the Earth was spinning, not the sky. And he said, there must be a logical, mechanical way to observe the motion on the ground. And he built his experiment based on that. That is a presupposition. But he built an experiment to test it. And had that experiment failed and not demonstrated the rotation of the Earth, then he would have been incorrect in his original presupposition and either had to change it or find another experiment to demonstrate that the Earth was rotating,
so can I ask
not the sky.
Okay,
that's normal presupposition that you find in science all the time.
If his experiment failed and that would nullify or falsify his presupposition, then it's not a presupposition, because a presupposition for the last time, maybe you can get it this time, is a necessary precondition for the possibility of the thing itself. An assumption is a tentative or model-based claim used during the scientific investigation. So what you're talking about is an assumption. You're calling it a presupposition. This is the crux of the issue, why you don't understand why affirming the consequent is such a problem. And this is the crux of the issue, why you don't understand why a correlative demonstration does not have any causative power at all. That's your issue.
Okay, First,
you basically
the observation which I keep telling you over and over again, is always followed by the presupposition. In other words, the idea of what the question, the answer to the question is essentially, because the observation pops a question into your head. You see something, you go, why is this happening? And then you make you make that presupposition so you can start trying to test against it. A lot of times we make presuppositions in science that go in the entirely wrong direction, and we end up completely changing our theories. This happened obviously before Newton, why things fell to the ground. Nobody really understood it. And then Newton came along and gave an idea that mass attracts mass. That was his presupposition. He demonstrated it by showing that, objects fall to the ground, and he could also time, he could make mathematical equations that could demonstrate why it's happening the way it is. Okay, I'm not an expert in that part of physics. I don't care about that. The important thing that I'm getting at is when he made an observation, he asked a question, and he answered the question with his presupposition, and then followed it up with experimentation. Foucault did that. Foucault, by the way, wasn't the only one doing it. We've been doing it ever since, demonstrating the same rotation using many different experiments, but in particular, pendulums all the time. So you explain to me how that's a presupposition.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. But
that's all right.
You remember my question to you earlier? I said, if it's not an assumption, but you just agreed, right? Like, it is an assumption. Foucault assumed Earth was rotating already, right? What was his justification to make that assumption, right? What was the experimental proof that Earth was rotating beforehand? What was the experiment before Foucault's pendulum? That was my question to you.
Yeah, he wasn't experimenting before. He made an observation, and so did all the other astronomers at the time when they were watching the celestial. No, they were watching the skies based from different. And by the way, one variable was the observations were made from different parts of the Earth. And they were watching the sky rotating in different directions when you got into the southern hemisphere than when you were up in the northern hemisphere. These are the reasons why you could make that claim without even going to a pendulum. But what Foucault did is he said, all right, another thing I can do is try to demonstrate it here on the ground using some form of mechanical device to demonstrate the Earth's rotation. That's the reason why there was, wait a second. There was the question of the Earth rotation that came out of observations of the sky, the demonstrations of why they came to the conclusion that it was the Earth doing the rotation was based on latitude, and therefore seeing that the sky behaved differently in different parts of the latitude, which would not, certainly wouldn't confirm a flat Earth.
Well, hold on, wait, let me pause you for a second. All right,
go on.
Check it out. So basically, what you're saying is that from first principles, all we have is what the sky is doing to give us our assumption that Earth is rotating. Therefore, I can say that it's not Earth rotating, but the sky. And I would have the same evidential basis to make that claim, that assumptive claim, as you do about Earth rotation. And we can basically have one conception over another because there's no actual experimental exclusivity, because Foucault's pendulum is already assumptive.
Yeah, your assumption's not justified with any experiment. So
anyway, one thing I want to point out, this is the thing I don't understand. We spent a lot of time in this room, and I brought this up before. Gio knows that we spent a lot of time basically trying to argue about whether the Earth is round and rotating, and you guys want us to kind of like stumble over whatever English dissection you want to do in the English language as far as what terms we're using as scientists to demonstrate the Earth's a globe. Where's your demonstration that the Earth's flat?
Duquilque fallacy for one, and two, your failure to use logic and your dismissal of logic as a necessary part of science is not someone else's problem.
No, I didn't dismiss it entirely. It is used a lot in science, especially it's used a lot. There are two forms of proofs out there in the world.
It's the backbone of science.
Mathematical proof. Thank you for interrupting me. Mathematical proof, and of course, logical, logic itself. Those are the only two proofs you'll ever find. Science doesn't use proofs ever. Even while using logic to describe things, it's not using a proof. What it's doing is it's using a logical explanation or using logic to explain things, but at the same time, it's ready to question based on the fact that either experiment's going to prove it wrong or new evidence will come forward. Lots of reasons why we can change our mind freely and not worry about, retribution because we were wrong in the first place.
You mean 100%?
Oh, how are we 100% wrong?
No. You were saying that science isn't about proofs. I disagree. It is about proofs. But what you mean to say is you can't prove something 100% in your philosophy, right?
We don't use proofs. What we use is consensus. If you look it up, this is exactly what we do. At the time when we publish our
Okay.
papers, our reviewers have to come in and follow up our experimentation and see if we're correct or not.
Using
That-
consensus is
Science
logically
science-
proofs is
fallacious.
completely incorrect. I know you guys say this all the time. Science doesn't prove things, it only has strong evidence. But science absolutely uses proof, uses logical proof, mathematical proof, evidential proof, inferential proof.
As supporting
It does
evidence.
all over. And science does use logical structure like the law of identity. So, like, if the Foucault pendulum could both be showing evidence for Earth rotation and just as much showing not evidence for Earth rotation, then science wouldn't work. It would have to deductively show evidence for something. That's why I asked you, does the Foucault pendulum show evidence for something? You are certain that the stuff that you're doing does show evidence for something. So this whole like way of trying to get out of certainty and saying that science doesn't use the deductive method, it's just incorrect. You guys don't know the epistemology of the scientific
Evidence is not
method.
proof.
You don't understand the basis for it. The backbone of it is logic.
That's the law of excluded
it's
middle,
not.
right, Galley?
That's wrong.
Evidence is not proof.
It's the art of minimizing doubt.
I
That
didn't
is
say
science.
that
According
evidence
to
is
Carl Sagan,
proof.
it is the art of
Okay,
minimizing
now
doubt.
3
It's
people
not
are
what he
heckling
said.
me. So if I said that evidence is proof, why did I make the specific claim that there is such a thing as evidential proof? Guy, you
Science is the art
interrupted
of
me to say
minimizing doubt.
evidence is
Right, so
not
you still
proof.
go. Okay. Science is
Guy,
the
you
art of minimizing
interrupted me to
doubt.
say that evidence is not proof. Why did I make the explicit claim that there is such a thing as evidential proof? If I believe that evidence is proof. Was I saying that evidential evidence?
Like,
Do you keep
Because
answering your own
you're-
questions
Yeah,
or do you let someone
exactly.
else go?
So now Alsadius is gonna back out. Let someone else jump in for him, like okay,
Dude,
Boomah.
there's
Then
like 20
okay,
people in
Boomah's
here.
gonna
I'm
get
trying to
bodied
leave
and
space for
refuted.
others.
Then he's gonna
Torah,
back
I
out,
could
pass
fill
it
the
to
time
Great
very
Angelo.
easily if I
You
wanted
guys
to,
have
but
been
I'm trying
doing this
not to.
all
And you're
night.
just not going to shut up. You're just keeping the fucking floor so you won't let anyone in, which is exactly what Wizard does. Nice
I
one.
won't let 4 people heckle me and dodge
Shut up. And you know
questions
what? I'm
when
getting
they
tired
make
of it too, because you have
refutations.
been monologuing and preaching to all of us about the structure of how this conversation's going. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going anywhere because you
That's just
refuse
a
to
lie, by
you
the way.
refuse to budge when someone comes up with any kind of logical conclusion as far as to rebut anything that you say. You won't admit anything that, as far as if anyone makes a statement that contradicts anything that you're saying. And as
That's
a result
also
of that,
a lie.
we're
I've
spending
made
that
5
is absolutely the
specific
truth.
refutations to you that you've dodged.
Well said,
Galley
Angelo.
really
Well
brings
said,
out
mate.
the demons in
So
you
there you
guys.
go again, doing the same thing.
Crazy.
So the verdict is
Crazy.
when does something become, proven? First,
So anyway,
you got
after you
deductive
lied about my
validity.
character and what I've said, I've made 5 specific refutations to you that you didn't
Yeah, but
answer.
you're making claims. You're not making any
You let
refutations.
Zanick jump in. You let OK Boomah and Alsadius jump in when you were refuted 5 times.
Are you done now moaning about how many times
You're
you
the guy
refuted
who
other
just
people
claimed that
without
I did
letting
that.
them totally do?
You
I
just
don't make
claimed
claims
that
I don't
I
to
did
people.
that
I just tell
when
them what I know.
demonstrably
And if you
you've
want
been
to
doing that.
accept it any way you want, go ahead.
You guys, we
You
can't
just
do this.
claimed that I did that when demonstrably you've done that 5 times. The thing
I've
you're
never
saying
once
I did.
said I debunked you. Never once said that I contradicted you. I actually supported you in a couple of your conclusions after the fact when I reassessed what it was you were trying to say. Not once did I go there and try to attack your character and say, that you don't know what you're talking about or anything like that. I went with the
You just
facts.
did.
Now, I'd
Okay,
like to
so
move
that's
forward
also
and do the
hang on,
same
that's
thing.
also a lie. You explicitly just said you will never once address or refute someone's logical conclusion against you, and I responded to that. I've done it 5 times to you,
No,
and
you
you've
would never
not. Please
accept
don't
another
interrupt.
person. That's
You've
what
done
I
it
said. Not
5
refute.
times. You've dodged my refutation. I haven't dodged anything. I've answered all of your conclusions, and when I refute you, you let someone else jump in and start
What?
heckling me like okay Boomah or Zanick or
Well, there you go. That's a
Alfani.
lie,
Like
dude. That's a
tiny-
fucking
we'll
lie.
talk
I
over
jumped
it
in to
happily.
correct you. Because
See,
you're fucking
We'll talk
tedious and
over-
annoying. That's why.
Whoa.
Yeah.
We'll talk
One
over all
one
of that.
time, one time I
Instantly
told
proved me
him.
right, by the way.
Well, I don't know who this is 'cause I don't have my screen up to see who I'm talking to, but I'm telling you right now, only one time did I allow someone else in because he'd asked earlier if he could join in. And I said, yeah, as soon as I finished my point and you finished your point, and boom, I let him in. Oh, that's a terrible sin, isn't it? Now, the other thing is I would like to finally wrap this up because I have other things that are far more important than to listen to this.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Deductive validity is the math that predicts, the exact behavior of a system. Okay. That is the kind of logic that you would expect to find in science. Okay. Falsification, of course, any competing or alternative, experimentation or something that comes along that invalidates whatever it is that you're coming up with. That would be another way to stop you from having something proven. And then there's the inductive convergent probability. That's a multiple, completely unrelated phenomenon that comes in and totally blows your experiment out of the water. Those are things that we use that are
Gemini or
logic to demonstrate, and what our conclusions are. Okay. But most of them are on the back burner. We don't even think about them. We just naturally do that in the course of experimentation, in the course of review after the experimentation is done, and in the course of forming a conclusion that we can all agree upon. We don't use the word proven because we want to leave ourselves open for corrections, and corrections happen all the time. So your attempt to seal it in that it's only logic that gets us to the result that we're at is not true.
That's a straw
I
man.
say that. But anyway, here's refutation number 6
Okay.
that you're not going to
Angelo.
address. Likely you're going to
Participating.
pass it on to someone else.
You tell it to the other
Science-
friends, I'm leaving.
He said he
Yeah,
wants
exactly.
to go.
That's what I thought. So 6 refutations that you don't respond to. Even though you accuse me of not responding to your claims, your refutations. I've
Have fun,
responded 6
guys. I'll
times,
see you
you
later.
dodged 6 times.
See, Angelo. So yes, what then? You've proved it. Well done. Nobel Prize. Go and collect it.
He just proved me right.
No, dude, you're going so tediously with a whole lot of generalizations, and you tell us what we think. You don't know what we think, and I take offense
I never
to you
claimed
telling
to
us
know what someone
what it
thinks.
is an intro review, what you create. So that's
I
what I
never
call a
claimed to
fucking
know what
wanker.
someone thinks.
That is a
You're
fucking
fired.
wanker.
Hold on, guys. Okay, Galley, I would like you to ask those 2 questions to OK Boomah to see if he would come to the same conclusion.
If he's willing to engage
willing.
in good faith, we can do that, yeah.
Yeah. OK Boomah, you weren't here for the whole thing. Like you just basically witnessed the crescendo, right? But essentially, it started with these 2 questions. Are you willing to answer them?
Are you waiting for a response? I don't know. I'll have to, if it's my field, yes.
It's about
Because
the
I'm not
scientific method.
qualified. I can't give a qualified answer. So yeah, okay. Loosely.
Yeah, it's benign and simple questions. Honest yes or no questions.
Yeah, do you agree that empirical evidence means evidence gathered through direct observation or experimentation rather than just theory or speculation?
No, empirical evidence is absolute evidence. It's proven beyond any doubt. So no, I probably
Right, hang
don't
on,
believe
it's a
in that.
rather question. It's this rather than that.
I just answered your question. Do
No, you
I believe
didn't.
empirical
I
evidence
asked you
is
if you agree. Okay, you're just gonna spiral
wait.
and not answer. It's all good.
Listen to his
You're just
question one more
bad faith.
time. No.
No, I just answered the question. You
Wait,
just altered the wording.
Okay, Boomah, if you answered the
Can you,
question, what was the... You're gonna interrupt me already? What was the question that you answered?
I didn't understand it.
So how did you answer it?
I said, what do I think empirical evidence is?
Okay.
You said, is empirical evidence
Boomah.
monologue?
No, not
Yeah,
monologue.
you can't do it, man. You can't
You
do
actually
it.
tripped over your tongue when you were saying it.
No, I didn't. I said
Okay,
it very
All right,
clearly.
well, ask the question again.
You
Ask the
just
question
can't
again
answer
clearly
me.
and concisely.
Galley,
And you start
maybe Boomah is
interrupting.
not the right person to answer 2 simple questions. Okay.
No,
So-
he's bad faith and he's unhinged, actually.
Alsadius, do you want to do it?
And do you have the necessary qualifications to make those conclusions?
No, dude, you're just
Yes.
answer two simple
You
questions,
do.
bro.
What qualifications do you have to make those conclusions?
Field of
That
credentials.
you're
don't
being
care.
unhinged? Yeah, if I see someone crying and they say I'm sad, I can tell that they're sad. If I see someone being unhinged, I can tell they're unhinged. Necessary
Yes,
qualifications.
and so what qualifications do you have to make those conclusions? Is what I asked.
To know if someone's being belligerent or unhinged, based on
Yeah.
your behavior.
Exactly. So you base it on my behaviour. So you don't really have those
Well,
qualifications.
actually,
It's a
according to my
feel thing.
calculations, Boomah, it seems like you're a little bit unhinged. Sorry. Next.
No, I just gave. See, it's amazing you can draw these conclusions. So what checks and balances do you have in place to make sure that these conclusions are correct or incorrect?
Dude, you didn't
depending
even
on what the
understand.
case
You
may
didn't
be.
even hear his first question, and then you responded to it. And then when he asked you to repeat it, you said, "Oh, I actually didn't understand it." Yet you gave an answer. Like, what the hell?
Do you want to go back to that now? Okay, we'll just go back to that. He said, do you think empirical evidence is, and then the rest of it was just jargon monologue. Now,
No,
I know
I
what I
said
think.
Or you
evidence.
didn't
See,
hear
there you
it.
go. I didn't even get a chance to answer without you cutting me off. So
Well,
who's here
'cause
in
you
good
were
faith and who
lying
isn't?
about what I said, saying it's jargon monologue, but it's very
It was.
simple. It's very simple. Evidence, empirical evidence, is evidence gathered through direct observation or experimentation rather than relying only on theory or speculation.
And that is where I'd say that's actually flying in on itself. See, that's a set-up question and really wouldn't make it through any proper formal debate formula other than
What
a
the
Discord
fuck are you
server
talking
where people
about?
just gang up on people and clip each other and don't respect the other person's view. Thank you.
It's actually not. So it's a true dichotomy. And the reason it's structured in that way is because if you say no, then your claim would be empirical evidence is evidence gathered only through theory or speculation is a possibility. That's the
Which
point
is
of the
not
question.
Under the criteria that you set. However, that is depending on an A or a B scenario. However, from what my findings in life are, there generally aren't only an A or a B. It's not an either or. Usually there are many different angles,
This
shades of
isn't a
grey rather than black or
philosophical
white.
question, brother. It's not
Yeah,
a
you're
You're
not
going to
philosophical
clip
tracking.
me
question.
again.
Let me try to
Do you
ask
have
it
a
a little more
who the
simply.
fuck is that? Who's not going to let me finish, dude? Okay, final warning.
Stop
If you don't let me
speaking.
finish my,
All right.
there you go. I'm gone. That's
Dude,
it.
you're
Fuck you. You're
spiraling
rude
out of
cunt.
control.
Holy. Okay. All right.
But would
Galley.
you say that are all
Oh, guy.
observations are empirical evidence?
Okay, you want to
No,
try it
I didn't
out,
say
a guy?
No, I'm just asking him. Are all observations empirical evidence?
Well, no.
No,
Besides
I
that, do you
didn't
want
say
to do the
that.
two questions? This is two simple
Why
questions.
would you say that?
Because that's not the point of his
Then,
two
then,
questions.
then I would disagree with what you said.
All
Galley, check next
observations
chat.
are empirical evidence, is your claim, okay?
No, I'm just saying by definition they are empirical.
Okay,
Well-
do you agree that empirical evidence is evidence gathered through observation or experimentation rather than
Yes.
relying only on theory or speculation?
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you agree that the scientific experiment, any scientific experiment, requires an independent variable, which is the factor that you
No.
intentionally change, the possible cause, and the dependent variable, which is what you measure to see the effect?
No.
Okay, what do you disagree with in that?
I disagree that you require only a strict set of dependent and independent variables.
You don't,
What
you can
basis?
do a scientific experiment without a possible cause and an effect that you measure?
You can have a cause and effect, but to strictly define it like that, I would say it's more or less like proposing a model is how I would view it instead.
Okay,
What the
so the
fuck,
question
man?
is about a necessary requirement, right? So when I ask, do you agree that a scientific experiment requires an independent variable, which is the factor you intentionally change, which is the possible cause, and a dependent variable, which is what you measure to see the effect? To say I disagree is to say a scientific experiment does not require an independent variable and a dependent variable. So if you can think of to disagree, you'd have to think of a scientific experiment that does not require an independent or dependent variable.
I have to think of an experiment where this is the. Sorry, what you're saying? You asking me a question?
Yeah, so if you disagree that a scientific experiment requires an independent variable and dependent variable as we defined, if you disagree, then you'd have to have a reason to, which would be you could produce a scientific experiment that does not have a dependent variable or an independent variable.
I didn't say it has a dependent variable, but not all science are strictly formed in that way, I would say. But yes, primarily that would be the
For a
best
scientific
thing.
experiment?
Yeah, the best thing would be to have a strict formulation like you precise right there. Like you have a dependent and an independent variable. That would be the best thing, yes.
Well,
But you
I'm
don't
talking about
require it.
requirements, so
No, you don't require it.
okay, can you give me an example of a scientific experiment without a dependent variable or one without an independent variable?
For example, not an experiment, but like more or less like an observation, I would say, where you learn something about an object. I don't think you require like a dependent and independent variable, or at least I would say it doesn't formulate that well. Like for example, in like observations of nature, like how birds, for example, like just in a wild example, but let's say you want to learn how birds migrate. Like you want to ask you can learn how birds migrate, but what's the dependent variable? Like I don't know.
That would just be correlation then.
Right,
That's the
that would
point.
be, for one, that would be
Yes.
correlation. For two, we're talking about a scientific experiment. So if I ask you about a requirement of a scientific experiment, and then
If you
you
want to
say,
have a
well, I
strict
don't want to talk
experiment.
about requirements of that. I can talk about requirements of an observation. But a requirement, meaning a necessary precondition.
If you want to do a strict experiment, then yes, you would want to have that, yeah.
Okay, so question 2 is answered with yes. So then my conclusion is, if you don't manipulate the independent variable, then you're only observing a correlation rather than directly testing causation, because other variables may be responsible for the observed effect.
Okay. I have no problems with the dependent variable changing.
Okay, awesome. Then you disagree with the 4 people prior to you, and you've demonstrated good faith. Good job.
Yeah, the only thing I have a question for you is, would you say that the dependent variable need to be manipulated by us, or is it something that just need to change for us to do the experiment?
The dependent variable?
I think you meant independent.
Oh,
I'm
sorry,
sorry, could you
independent
repeat the
variable.
question?
Independent
Would you
variable.
say
Does it require you said it need to be manipulated. The way you phrase it is like you need to manipulate it. But what you want to do is observe when the independent variable changes. You want to observe how the dependent variable is affected by that, right?
Well, the dependent variable is the thing you measure. That's the thing you're watching, measuring. The independent variable,
observe the independent
that's the
variable.
factor you change.
You're watching.
I mean, yes, but you want to observe both of them. If you know the dependent variable, that's why I said if you have a model, you have a model of that model has an input and an output. You need to know what the input is. Either you could change it yourself, but if you can't change it yourself, at least you need to observe it. And if you observe it, that would be the same thing. Whether you change it actively or not, it's really irrelevant in that case, right?
Are you suggesting that you can use the effect to prove the causation of the cause?
No, I'm saying you observe both of them. the same thing. There is really no difference.
If you wanted to measure growth of a plant, the changes in growth of the plant, for example, being water or is it sunlight or what causes growth, you could do these changes, right? You could do these watching of the dependent variable, i.e. the growth, how much the plant growth is the dependent variable. But we're changing all sorts of independent variables. Which one is the cause? They're all causing the change. You restrict the water, it doesn't grow as much. You restrict the light, it doesn't grow as much. You restrict the oxygen, it doesn't grow as much. Or CO2 doesn't grow as much. All these things are causes of the change in the dependent variable. Now, me describing this is trying to get clear because I still hear it 100%. There's confusion. This example I think is the best one because every one of those change the dependent variable. None of them are the actual cause for the hypothesis. The hypothesis says everything. Hey, we need light, we need soil, we need CO2, we need all these things, chlorophyll, right? All these things we need to make a plant grow. And all of them are the causes. But in experiment, we only look at one at a time. We have the control variable, which are the things that don't change. Someone misspoke about that earlier. We have the dependent variable, which is the growth in this particular experiment. And we have the independent variable, which could be a myriad of things that we could change. Time, CO2, dirt, soil, nitrogen, all these things. Does that make sense? So you're still conflating, still to this point, 2 hours later, you're conflating the cause in the experiment with the cause in the hypothesis. Same word, same meaning, different context. I mean, is it still not clear?
Okay, can you stop condescending to me as if I don't understand what you're saying? Before you said, I don't understand. I never said that. So in your example, with different variables with plant growth, like light, minerals, water, etc., temperature, soil, none of those things are the cause. Each is a contributing factor in what's called a causal network. Removing any one of them can stop growth, but none fully explain it. So the loaded part of your question is that there's a false dilemma. So either there's one identifiable cause, or we cannot make sense of causation at all, but science doesn't require a single isolated cause. I agree with that. So then the issue, that's just me responding to your question. Now I can refute it.
Let me still.
That's just me answering
Hold
your
on.
question. Now I can
Zanick.
refute it. I let you go on for much longer. So
Yes,
saying, yeah, so this is also just correlation and intervention. This isn't causation. This isn't a independent variable you manipulate and a dependent variable you measure. So no, that is not a scientific experimentation. That's a scientific observation.
All right,
My claim is about a scientific experimentation.
Wait.
Do you agree?
Hold on a second.
You agree that my claim is about a scientific experimentation?
Yes, and my example is a scientific experimentation as well. Hold on, I have a quick question for you. So if I say I want to do a test with a plant and I want to change the amount of water that this particular plant is exposed to, and you agree because you did the same test I'm doing at your house. We did the exact same test. We're going to only limit these 2 plants, identical plants. We're going to only give it so much water per week, and we're going to see the measure of the growth. And then after that, we're going to start giving it more water, and it grows more. Would you say that's a scientific experiment showing that increasing the water would be directly correlated with increasing the growth, and would be the direct cause in this particular experiment of the plant growing taller?
That'd be a correlation.
Would you say that the water, by that experiment, giving strong evidence that more water caused that plant to grow taller? Yes or no?
From one experiment?
Simple fucking question. Simple question.
From
yes
one
or no?
Dude, chill the fuck out.
I'm chill. I just asked a question. I'm waiting. You can't answer, can you?
You talk like this in person to someone, you jump down their throat while they're trying to respond.
I don't talk to people that are this silly.
Obviously, I have the capacity to respond to you, but if you're going to nitpick and start interrupting me as soon as I start speaking, I'm going to tell you to stop doing that.
I'm not going to say anything. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So what that experiment actually shows is if you vary the water and hold other conditions, you observe more water consistently increases growth, less water consistently reduces growth, if you repeated that.
So again, let me ask the question. It was a yes or no question. You didn't get it the first time. I'll ask it again.
I bet I can ask your question back to me better than you can.
No, I don't want you to. All I want is yes or no. Why do you have to make it so more complicated? If I make an experiment with the dependent variable being growth an independent variable being water. If I show that more water creates more growth, would you say it was a valid experiment that concluded that the dependent variable was changed by the change in the independent variable with all of the control variables set constant? Would you agree that the additive water independent variable being changed was the cause of the growth? Yes or no in that experiment?
I answered that.
Yes or no? You keep on saying all these other words except the yes or no. Why is that so hard?
Oh no, I don't agree that it proved. I don't.
Okay.
No, I don't agree.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate.
Because
You know
your
what? I
question's
always like
loaded. It's a
honesty and I
false
like
dilemma.
directness. Thank you
Now,
for answering the
now I
question.
can't
You're
respond because you're
no,
a
I'm just
coward. But anyway,
no.
your question's loaded, and it's a false dilemma. The same false
It
dilemma
is
as
not.
you said before. So I'll repeat what your false dilemma is. It's loaded. So
It's not
there's
loaded at
one
all.
identifiable cause, or we can't make sense of causation at all. And here's your issue. It does not prove water alone is the direct cause of plant growth in isolation. Water is sufficient by itself for growth. Growth is reducible to only water, but it still takes someone giving it water. So no, water in and of itself is not making the plant grow. It
I
is
hope
not the
everybody here is
direct
listening to this
cause.
because you just showed you don't understand how a scientific experiment works. You're wrong. I just think you can
No
prove me right.
need
You
for
can prove
that.
you can prove me wrong. Hold on. You can prove me wrong, but I'm telling you are wrong. That is an experiment. It's a typical experiment in science and biology. It shows that in this particular experiment, it shows that water is the cause of the growth and the rate of growth. More water,
Now he's
more growth,
changing his
less water.
claim,
Hold
by
on,
the way.
almost done, almost done, almost done.
Yeah,
More
changing
water,
your
more
claim.
growth, almost done. More water, more growth, a little less water, less growth. That is an experiment. You put that aside as an experiment, successful, showed that there was a change in a dependent variable. That is a successful experiment that will now support the overall hypothesis, which could be completely different overall. But you're wrong because you don't understand between the experiment and the hypothesis. That's as simple as that's how I interpret what you're telling me. By what you're
Okay,
telling
so
me,
are
your
you gonna
words.
keep gish galloping, or can I
I'm
respond?
not gish galloping. I'm telling you, you're wrong.
Nope, not
Okay,
gonna be able to
great.
respond, Galley.
Stop saying you're wrong. Obviously, I know what I'm talking about.
You
Does the
don't.
scientific Dude, stop with the Adderall too. Does the
You
scientific
stop with the
experiment
Adderall.
show increasing the water is the direct cause of the plant growing?
That's
That's
not
what
the
you
experiment.
asked.
That's not how experiments work. You just don't
You are
get it.
such a coward.
No, you just don't get it. That's
I
not how
just
experiment works.
repeated
I
your
didn't say that
question
it was
back to you and
the
you said I
absolute
don't get
cause.
it. I repeated your question back to you verbatim
You
and you said it
didn't.
was
You
incorrect and I
didn't.
don't get it.
You absolutely didn't because you came back and said that it
Okay,
was the absolute cause.
wait. Let's see if anyone else in the room is this accurate? Does the scientific experiment show increasing the water is the direct cause of the plant growing? Is that his question? Was that
Was
his
his
question before he changed
original
it?
question.
No, it
That was
wasn't. Direct
100% your
cause. No, that's a
question.
direct
I
cause.
checked in the live stream if that
Not
was
the
your
direct
question.
cause.
You accused me of being wrong.
Not
So
the direct cause. I said it was the cause in this
you
experiment.
said direct cause
I didn't
several
say direct
times.
cause. I said it was a cause, which
No,
means
now
a
you're
change.
changing your
All
claim.
the
You're a
thing has to do.
liar.
Hey, listen,
No, now you're
coward,
changing your
coward,
claim.
coward. Listen, you're being a coward.
You're changing your claim.
All I said was,
Zanick, come on, man.
let
You're
me finish.
unbearable.
You're changing your claim.
All I said was that the water will make a change in the growth. That is a
You
valid
interrupted
experiment.
me to
It
say
doesn't
I
mean
was wrong
you
about
can't
steel
help
menu
yourself.
about
You can't
direct
help yourself.
cause when that
Dude,
was your
go
claim.
look in the mirror. You got some issues. Seriously.
consistently
observation.
been not inseminating and fertilizing eggs?
Huh? Sorry, could you repeat that?
So with your observation, there's that third group. Have they been
Yeah.
repeatedly not inseminating and fertilizing their eggs?
They have been observed to not inseminate them, like they're not mating. Yes. In this experiment, it's the exact same thing that your
And you're making
lab
sure that the
experiment is
other
doing.
chickens that are of the same kind, same clade, they don't get in that group?
Yeah.
And that's
Okay,
a
so it's a
control.
control. There you go.
Yes.
You're done.
It is the same as a control, except you didn't manipulate it. That's the only difference.
You've been arguing this whole
Dude.
time that it's not a control,
By the
man.
change in the independent variable with all of the control variables set constant. Would you agree that the additive water independent variable being changed was the cause of the
Zanick,
growth?
you're hot, Mike.
Wait, he's saying it right here. Look. Listen. He waits.
What is going on?
He looked at the tape.
Listen. Yes or no?
Listen,
You
here it
don't
is.
say all
The
the other
proof.
words except yes or no. Why is that so hard?
Oh, no. No, I don't agree that it proved... I don't...
Okay. He doesn't agree. See, he said no.
Oh,
Liar.
play the rest. Play the rest. What does he say right after?
He won't, I
Because it's a
guarantee he won't.
because
Well, I'm
it's a
playing-
loaded question, and here's my reasoning why it's a loaded question.
You
You
said
are a
no. You
snake,
said-
Zanick.
You're a snake and a liar, and you misrepresented what I said.
You said
You
no.
sent that to me in a DM, and I listened to it, and I was like, oh, okay, let me see if he actually says no here.
Identifiable
Then he-
cop.
Yeah. I listened to the whole thing too. I made it very clear, yes or no.
Why'd you
And he
stop
said
it right
no.
after that?
Oh, because that was the answer. I mean, he said no.
Oh, because I'm a snake and I'm a liar?
No. Oh, now we have a problem with context. You don't think he meant that? He was very clear what he
Maybe
meant.
another
he said,
hour and a half.
He said
Dude,
it's loaded.
Zanick, don't.
Are we going to
do
start this all over again?
No.
he
Yeah,
did it to
blame
me. I feel like I
Zanick
did him
this
like that.
time, great
He's so
Angelo.
friggin' smug and arrogant about it. So I went back there, listened to it, and he said no. I said, finally,
Said,
give
no,
me yes
no,
or
I
no.
don't agree. It's a loaded question. Here's
How?
why.
How?
He explained why right after that, but you cut it off. Just
No,
now. You cut it off.
I
Yes.
can play it.
Yeah. I listened to the whole thing.
Don't mock me. I cut up because it was done.
Because you're
I
being
don't
a
wanna play it
liar.
anymore.
You're being a
Yeah,
liar.
you're just lying
He
about
said
what
no.
happened. You're misrepresenting what
He
happened.
said no, and I can play the rest of it. No problem. Should I play the rest of it? I will. Here, let's do it.
No, we don't want to bring this back up, Xander.
Let's play the rest of it. Now we said A. Let's hear B.
Okay.
Why don't you hear it? You heard? Let's hear it.
Play it again.
Here it is.
It
Okay.
does not prove water alone is the direct cause of plant growth in isolation. Water is sufficient by itself for growth. Growth is reducible, only water, but it still takes someone giving it water.
So that's his answer. It's not an experiment because it takes someone to give him water. That's why you think you're right in this situation?
I said I disagree. That's the So you asked that question several times. My initial response was that I disagree because it's a loaded question with a false dilemma. You picked out one of the times I answered when I said I disagree because it still takes someone doing it. You're cherry picking and misrepresenting what I actually said. This is so stupid.
It was a simple question.
So your
I
ego
asked-
was bruised. Your ego was bruised.
No, it
because
wasn't.
How does
It's
it
really
feel to be
about-
cherry picked?
This is so annoying.
It's
Angelo,
not
You
if
have
you
true.
want
to
to be
interrupt.
fair,
Both of you have
wanted
to
to move
interrupt me
on.
constantly and censor me constantly.
Oh,
Because you're
a lot of
cowards,
projection
actually.
going on there. Seriously.
So what
Yo,
happened was I
can you move on
accurately
from this?
represented what you said. Your ego is bruised.
All right, how about we all listen to one last time? Let's all
You
listen to it one more time.
unaccurately represented what I said. You misrepresented what I said. Several people.
Let's listen to it one more time.
I make an
Here
experiment.
we go.
So you're gonna
Ready?
play one of the times that I answered it, and not the time that I answered why I
No,
disagreed.
Let's listen to the whole thing. It's only like a minute, less than that, and you'll hear your no, and then you'll give the explanation, and then we'll make a judgment of what you actually meant. Because I think by your response,
This is
you were-
unreal. Why do we let
we go,
someone
here we
just
Yeah, why are
be
we gonna
here
let Zanick-
disrupting the live stream for 5 hours?
I thought we moved on.
Me and a guy were
Well,
having a great
you did it.
conversation.
held me to the, you hit my feet to the fire when you said, "Would you apologize?" And you went through the whole apologetic freaking for 5,
I
10
didn't
minutes.
ask you to apologize.
Not you, not
That was
you.
me.
Somebody
That was
else.
me because you said you
Yes.
wanted to talk to
So
me, and I said,
now,
okay, I would talk to you if
but
you
you're
would
being
just.
unfair.
Oh
You're
boy,
not.
here we go again.
This is so.
So why don't we
Yeah,
listen
it's,
to it?
it's Zanick doing this, great Angelo. Like, why don't you tell him to stop?
Yeah, tell
How
Zanick
about
to
both
stop.
of you guys do it?
Dude,
I was in
Galley
the
didn't
middle
bring
of
this
having
up.
a conversation. He just started playing a fucking
Great
clip.
point from moderation.
Because I think it
at
was
this
funny
point.
when I went back. You know what? I'm going to go back and listen to it because I could have sworn you said no, and sure enough, you did.
You didn't listen to it. You listened
the
to
room
Okay,
one
let's
wanna
listen.
listen to
Here we
this?
go. I'm playing the whole thing through. I'm not going to stop it. Here we go. Would you say it was
Are we gonna let
At this
Zanick
rate,
do
it'd be
this?
a very good decision to
No,
moderate
this is
the room. He's not
ridiculous.
going to yield.
Gio, are you there? I don't want to make a judgment call here.
Well,
Go ahead.
I think we heard the tape. Can we move on?
Yeah,
Please,
the
the room
tape
wants
is
to
They
move
said I cut,
on.
they said I
one
cut it
of
off. I'm going
5
to play it
times I
through.
answered
It's
the
30
question.
seconds. It's 30 seconds. Here we go.
The
No. The room can Gio.
That's
I'm gonna
never 30
mute
seconds,
Zanick
damn.
now because we already moved on. Galley and Guy were having a conversation. I'm just gonna.
Can I
just
clarify a
do it.
point between Galley and Guy? Because it sounded like the last exchange might have been misunderstood.
Why?
Or maybe I misunderstood.
no
Xanac,
manufacturer.
sorry.
So you want to keep us
Yeah.
on this point when we're trying to move past it?
No,
No.
we
The
move
guy,
on. This is about me and a guy. Oh, Galley.
Yeah.
This
We can be the
is
yeah.
same
something
person. It's
else.
all good.
So Galley asked the question, are you making sure the eggs aren't being fertilized? And you said yes. My understanding of the question was like in an intervening sense, like are you keeping them from doing that? Whereas I think in Aguy's example, being purely observational, you would be making sure in the sense of you're observing that the
Yeah.
males never interact with the
I'm
eggs.
taking a sample where I observed the independent variable was that they didn't mate.
How do you know
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, either way though, if the male chickens interacted with the egg, you wouldn't keep that as group C, the group that male chickens don't interact with the egg. So either way,
What?
it's still a control. It can't be because your group C is the group where male chickens don't interact with the egg. So if in group C, there's a chance that male chickens interact with the egg, it is no longer group C, the group where male chickens don't interact with the egg.
Right.
This is hypothetical, so obviously I am sure.
Do you understand what he's saying though? He's saying it wouldn't be a control anymore, or it would be a control. Therefore, it would be a causational claim.
Correct. So it is a causative claim if you have a control. If you don't have any control, it's purely correlational.
It's correlation, right? It's very simple, guys.
Yes, but when I in this experiment I observe and I make sure by observing I look at them and I see that they
And
never fertilize the egg.
Then you're controlling for that. Because if they fertilize the egg, would you have kept them in group C? Where chickens
no, then that would be obviously not I would say this is some other group. I just picked a group where I saw that this didn't happen. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're picking the groups out. That's a control.
Yeah.
Okay, if you don't control,
I wouldn't call that a control either, but I would call it
that is a control. So if you pick group C, right, that's the same thing as having just 3 groups, one twice fertilized a week, or twice inseminated a week, one once inseminated a week, one not inseminated at all. That's the same thing. You're still controlling for, I don't want 2 groups where they are not controlled, because that would be purely correlational. You're still controlling, so you can make a causative claim. And if you're not controlling, it's a correlational claim.
So I'm just gonna reiterate what I asked before. So the fact that whether I manipulated the dependent variable or not is irrelevant. Whether it's a control or it's either of the other 2 groups is actually irrelevant as long as I observe the same
Incorrect.
setup.
Incorrect. That's a control, dude. If you're controlling for something, by observing a group of chickens that don't inseminate, that is called your control group.
Okay, but how can I not how can I not see how can I know the dependent variable for any experiment unless I observe it?
Aguy, is group C only group C because the chickens don't inseminate?
Yes, they are picked as Group C, like they are
Okay, so that's
equivalent
a
of Group
control.
D.
Then you have
They are equivalent.
Yeah, that's a
then
God,
you
you're
have
third time going
manipulating.
through the
causation.
circle.
I didn't
Exactly.
manipulate
That's not
So then
anything.
if
manipulating.
you
I just
have,
observe.
hang on. So that's groups. That's a control. You have causation. Now, if you say I just observed 3 different groups, and then one inseminated once a week, one twice a week, one not at all, you would just have correlation. If you're
Right.
saying you didn't pick them out, it just happened.
I picked the samples that fit the setup. So I
Yeah,
have
but how do you
obviously I
know
have
that
to
they
do
didn't
a lot of
All
inseminate?
good.
what?
That's a control
What?
then. All good.
That's fine, but I didn't. The point here is that I didn't manipulate anything. So whether I manipulated
you
it or
did.
not, how did I stop any males from inseminating anyone?
Well, you're manipulating which chickens are allowed in which group.
Yep.
No.
He's not though. That was the point.
Yeah, so if the thing that you're calling Group C, all of a sudden, they halfway through the week started inseminating, right? Would they still be a part of Group C?
Nope.
They would not be part of. That they would not be a representative of that Group C. No, that's true.
Right.
Okay.
There you have it. You just
But
you
this
just
is this is
That's not
what
manipulation.
So
observational
you
studies
told Geo
are.
that isn't the case, but then as soon as I asked you about it, you said it is the case. You are picking which chickens are part of which group. You just
But
double
do you
spoke.
think that when you do observational study that you just pick every single data that exists, or do you think we scrape away, remove outliers, etc.?
Dude, this is
This
so
is what
weird.
observational studies are.
Dude, that is one of the worst loaded questions I've ever heard. But in
No,
in
yeah.
empiricism and observational science, when you're doing these observations, if you want to make a causative claim, you would need a control.
But that's not manipulation. Like you could have all
That's
the
not
chickens
manipulation.
intermixed, and if you're careful about observing which chickens get their eggs fertilized, which don't, you just divvy that data in that way. That's not a manipulation of the actual objects
Okay.
in the experiment. That's just categorizing the data to make sense of it.
Do you
I think
remember
you
what
might be
Galley?
mixing the two topics. So one was the discussion I was having with Zanick, one is with Aguy. So with Aguy, I was speaking about proving causation. So if you're going to prove like A causes B in science, you'd rely on something repeated, consistently reproducible changes, controlled. That's how you can justify causation.
Yeah, but you can have that in that situation. Every season, you notice that the chickens that have their eggs fertilized, they make chicks, and the chickens that don't. Like you don't need to
How do you know?
manipulate the chickens to get that data.
Okay,
Is
okay.
that single one observation enough to justify causation, or is that just correlation? Merely
Every
correlation.
season, I'm saying. Every season, you notice the same pattern.
Yeah.
Why don't you
It's
answer
10
his question?
years.
He just asked you
10
5
years.
seconds ago.
That's multiple
Dude, how do you guys not grasp this?
repeatable.
Yeah, and like I
Hang
think
on,
one
back
of the
up.
big
Back
concerns
up.
here is that there's
Galley
a
just
false
asked you a
binary
question
going
15
on
seconds ago.
between like
Why don't you answer?
scientific and not scientific, between proven and not proven.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know
Galley
you're gonna
just
do
asked
the
you a
whole like
question
proof first
like 20
evidence
seconds
thing,
ago.
Alcidius, but here's the issue. When Gio asked about to a guy if he's picking the chickens or not, he said no.
We all agree on what swans are.
Okay,
Language
so
is
now
shared
you're
property.
stating it is arbitrary.
In a sense, but not random.
It's not
Like we said, there's
arbitrary or
different words
random.
in
There's
different
different
languages.
words for the same bird. Yeah. So therefore, there's
Right.
some kind of
In
meaning
that
that's
sense,
unfolding through the words.
yes. In that sense, it's arbitrary because every language has a different word for it. There's nothing ontologically linking those phonemes to that meaning, right? There's not a magical connection there. But it's not random in the sense that they're not just invented every morning by any whoever that just decides to call it something different. In that sense, it's not random, but it is technically, if you like, arbitrary.
It's not arbitrary though, because even if we called cats dogs, they would
I
still
don't
be
think you
cats.
understand what I mean by arbitrary.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing that I don't think you're understanding. Is there's a meaning that's behind all of this. And
We
that's what
give
the
those
question
words
is
meaning,
being
though.
asked to you is where does that meaning behind all of this come from?
It's
so that we
intersubjective.
can obtain
Oh,
knowledge. And then
Because
that
because
knowledge we
language
can
is.
make
I
into
understand your question.
objective claims like the law of identity at that point. We could say A is A. And we can make
You're
that
all over the place.
objectively, universally, all day, every day.
Do you even remember the question you were asking me?
Yeah. So
Forgot
basically,
Zanick.
in those different languages, you have these meanings, right? And those meanings precede the languages, obviously, because we have
No,
derived universal and objective
no, that's
laws.
incorrect. I'm going to stop you right there. The meanings don't precede the language.
Yes, they do,
Okay,
dude.
can you prove that?
Look,
What do you
look,
mean
look.
by meaning?
I mean, an apple was an apple, regardless
An
of if
apple
you
is not a
knew it was
meaning. An apple
called
is
an
a
apple.
thing.
Okay,
What do
there's
you
meaning.
mean by
It
Dude,
links the
meaning?
word to the
I
thing.
love this.
dude, do you understand when I say an apple, like a 2-year-old who doesn't know language knows the difference between an apple and a banana, right?
Yes, those things are
Okay,
objects.
that
They're not
meaning,
meaning. You
that
understand what I'm
meaning
saying?
behind,
It's
okay, the
not meaning.
meaning
It's not a meaning.
behind
It's
those
a thing.
items, dude, all the stuff we're talking about is real, okay? So we're talking about reality
Sure.
here, okay? So apples and
Yeah.
bananas are real and they're in reality and they have a meaning that precedes the word apple and precedes the word banana.
No.
Wow, dude, you just agreed that
Okay.
a 2-year-old could identify an apple and a banana without language.
No, Torah said
Yeah.
that.
Okay,
What does
so
that mean?
therefore meaning precedes language. You can derive
What? So okay, this
meaning
is what I'm asking you.
from
What you mean by
okay,
meaning, right?
you can
So what
derive
you're
meaning.
talking about here?
Oh my god. You asked me a question.
Go ahead.
You want to know what he means by meaning, okay? It's something that is just inherent in the object itself that gives it meaning.
So the meaning is the thing that gives it meaning.
No, it's inherent. Basically, it's qualia, like he was saying, qualities of an object, the redness of an apple, the shape,
So
you know
none
what I
of
mean?
those are
Like,
meaning.
Okay, what gives things meaning, manufacturer?
Meaning is the link that words have to their object. That's meaning.
Yeah. What do you use to do that? What is that?
The
Like if
words.
I asked you, what's the meaning of an apple? What are you going to say?
There is no meaning of an apple. There's a meaning to the word
Oh,
apple,
really?
and the
There's
word
absolutely
apple
no
means
meaning to an
a
apple?
object.
There's no calories gained by a man when he eats an apple?
That's not a meaning. There's a meaning to an apple if you give it one,
Oh,
right?
there's
If you
no
put an
purpose to
apple
an
on a
apple?
pedestal, you sign the pedestal, shine a light on it, you've given it meaning. You give it a different meaning if you eat the fucking thing. You understand
Well,
that
Okay,
the
so
meaning
then
is
you just
different from what's
destroyed
inherent
all
to the apple
natural
itself.
selection. You just destroyed all of your natural selection and everything.
What the fuck are you on about?
Manufac, when you say meaning, what you mean is the definition of the thing.
Little more than that. So not just the definition. Like I said, you can put an apple on a pedestal, sign it, shine a light on it. You've given it a different meaning, right? The word apple has a meaning, and that meaning is, yes, the apple, but it could be more contextualized depending on the context. Like it's a little more complicated than that, but kind of, yeah.
So the ontology of the thing existed before the description of the thing. Similar to if my girlfriend only speaks Romanian and I gesture towards the ice cream stand and I grab her hand and see her reaction and she smiles and walks with me towards the ice cream stand, I can understand that she's consenting and assenting to ice cream. Consent
Yes.
and assent are established. Even if there's no description for them or word to describe them, there is an objective meaning that is there. An objective, I mean mind independent or absolute.
I don't know about objective. I would say it's intersubjective. I would say that there's a meaning created between the two of you. I think
But there
every
is
step of
an
that process you
absolute
described has
meaning.
different meaning.
But there is
I
an
don't think that's
absolute
true.
meaning, which is
Are
word
you
in.
absolutely sure about that?
Sorry, let me specify. I don't know what you mean by absolute, but it's not an objective one.
Which would mean mind independent, right? When you say objective.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So there is an absolute meaning.
There could be.
There could not
I don't.
be. Then it's
There could be. I
absolutely the
think there's.
case that there could not be.
Yes.
Okay. So the only absolute that you have is that it is absolutely the case that there could not be absolute truth, meaning, or absolute objectivity. That's the
Okay.
only
No,
absolute
that's not.
you have.
Quick
That's not
show
the
of
only
hands.
absolute. No.
Who here is a university freshman? Because this feels like dorm room conversation from like when I was that age.
We're basically in a dorm room.
Well, I don't think you're intelligent enough, Alsadius, to engage in ontological topics, but if you're gonna
I'm intelligent enough
call
to
everybody
absorb them,
here
not the
college
mushroom level.
freshmen. Yeah, I'm old enough to be your father, son. So if you're gonna
How old are
call
you guys?
everyone in
Like,
here
just from your voice,
college,
you're not old enough to be my
you've
father.
demonstrated several times your maturity, which is that of a teenager, kiddo.
Dude, I'm in my 40s.
Yeah, but
I'm,
the insults and stuff demonstrate the lack of intelligence, brother.
I am
Yeah, and this
definitely
this
old enough to
whole
be your father if
conversation
you're in your 40s.
started. This whole conversation started with you trying to define knowledge, brother. You're just going to the entailment of your own little argument.
And
So
then
just
someone
relax.
else asked, what does meaning mean? And then, so if you want to insult, I would maybe insult the person who doesn't know what knowledge means, or maybe insult the person who doesn't know what meaning means. I mean, there's other people who don't claim that.
So
It wouldn't be an
clearly,
insult
and
actually because they don't know the definition of insult or anything, so it wouldn't even be an insult to
That's
them. They
true.
wouldn't know it. They couldn't know if you were insulting them.
That's true.
so you
And they don't know
understand,
what
of
it
course, that
means.
if I ask something like, "What do you mean by meaning?" It's not necessarily that I don't know what meaning is, but I don't know how he's using that word.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the absolute value of it.
Use some absolute value.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
absolute
are you
value.
now going to ask what the absolute value means? Is that the next question? And then when we tell you that, you're going to ask what that means? Because it's getting
I mean, it
kind of
wouldn't be a bad
boring.
question. Frankly, I wasn't going to ask that. No.
Oh, okay.
Well, there's
So,
a logical entailment when you ask a question like, "What does meaning mean?" Right? You have to understand it. If you have introspective understanding of how you function as a human being, when you ask this question, what are you looking for? An
If you go
answer?
back, I think you'll find that I specifically asked, "What do you mean by meaning?"
he's not looking for
Exactly.
an answer, dude. He's not.
No, of course. This is called epistemic nihilism. Very beautiful.
Well, you understand the difference between that question and what does meaning mean, right? What does meaning mean, and what do you mean by meaning are two different questions.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
absolute
asked
value.
you what you meant by meaning too, Manufact. So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I think you did
Yeah, if you're
ask,
gonna,
what do you mean by meaning? And then I asked you that, do you mean definition?
Yeah.
yeah, because
Which I think I
manufacturer,
gave an
think about
explanation
it.
on.
You're using the word. You're saying, what do you mean by meaning? It's like, dude, obviously, whatever you mean by meaning, because you're asking me
That
what
was
I
not
mean by
obvious to me.
meaning.
No.
So, well, we're using the same word. When you're asking someone, what do you
Yeah, I
mean by
understand that.
meaning? You're obviously baking in what you mean by meaning. Don't you agree?
I agree. Yes.
So then why are you asking a loaded question?
It wasn't a loaded question. It was pretty specific.
Well, then what do you mean by meaning if you're asking other people what do they mean by meaning if you don't know what meaning means?
I think I already answered that. Did I answer when you asked me? Who is that I'm talking to, by the way?
No, I don't think you answered anything at all at one period of time.
So meaning is the link that we give to words to represent the things that they represent. That's the meaning.
Right, we
Words
just
and other
proved
things,
that.
not just
That's
words.
just the
Well, that didn't work with the word meaning.
The word meaning has a meaning, yes.
Yeah, well, you just destroyed the possibility of meaning with your definition of what meaning is. Because the word meaning doesn't fall into that category.
Sure it does. Still represents something.
Okay, what's the definition of meaning?
What the definition is or what it means?
Oh my goodness. Good
What gives meaning its meaning if it has to have a link between
night,
meaning and
guys.
meaning?
Good night, man.
Language gives it its meaning.
What gave language its
So the
meaning?
example, not language has meaning. Words mean things, but the example you gave of like motioning to an ice cream and the girl following me, there's all of those gestures also had meaning, right? So it's not
That's a
just that if you
language, right?
communicate.
That's a body
Language is
language.
communication is very complicated, and it's not just written or spoken language.
Awesome. I agree. So what makes that possible?
The fact that we're social creatures and we've come up with this system somehow, I don't know. That's not
Wow,
my
sounds
definition.
like you're pointing to a revelatory personal creator, huh?
Not at all.
Well, then how else do you explain the sociality of creatures?
I mean, we all
I
reproduce
suspect it would be
sexually.
some
So in order
evolutionary.
to have kids, you've got to have at least some social connection with someone else.
Exactly,
That's
right?
going to come later.
Which points to like what you would use for your deductive argument. You would start at the top rather than at the bottom. So you notice that you're a social creature, you must be social to take care of your children. So instead of working from there up, we're going to work from the top down. There must be a personal revelatory creator that made us in his image to be social creatures,
Why not?
and
Why not work from the bottom up?
therefore, there is a personal revelatory creator because we are social creatures. There's your modus ponens. You guys have deduced truth.
But you're just
That's crazy.
arbitrarily deciding to work top down and not bottom up.
No, I'm not arbitrarily deciding that. I'm choosing to preserve truth. You're choosing to not even know anything because bottom up only leads you to a strong or weak argument. And you need a top-down argument, a deductive one, to prove that your bottom-up approach is even valid. So I'm just cutting the legs out and starting right at the top, which is very
Yeah, to be
normal in
clear,
philosophy because
to
that's
be
what we
clear,
do. We do deductive arguments, and then that's how we preserve truth.
I wasn't claiming that I don't know anything. I was claiming the opposite. In fact, that I can know many things despite not having that truth aspect be objective.
Yeah, but you could be wrong about that, right?
Yes, knowledge is fallible.
Okay, yeah.
Again,
So then, what's the point
otherwise
of
there's no
even
meaning.
studying?
I mean, if you say that knowledge can't be fallible, then you can't effectively say that you know anything because you could be wrong about all of those things.
Okay,
Many of
cool.
them.
So you agree that it's impossible for a human to come up with any knowledge that's infallible, right?
Not any. No, again, you can define something into absoluteness.
How about like the law of identity, for example? Is that infallible?
Um, is it infallible? No. It's a good functionable law. I think there could hypothetically be universes where that doesn't hold, or sections of this
Okay,
one
but
even, or
without like
entire systems
appealing,
where that doesn't necessarily.
yeah, like philosophically though, without appealing to ignorance or possibility, so we don't enter into a fallacy here. Um, in order to negate the law of identity, you would have to identify it. So by the argument, deductive argument, reductio ad absurdum, the law of identity stands universally on its own, and it's a concept. It doesn't exist, and man can't come up with universal concepts like that are infallible. It's impossible. So either the universe can create stuff, from its laws, because the universe is like a thing, like you say it is,
Why are you assuming it needs to be
or
infallible?
there has to be. What's that?
Why are you assuming it needs to be infallible?
No, I'm not assuming it needs to be infallible. I'm saying it necessarily is infallible
Why?
because you can't prove it any other way. You can't
Why is
prove
it
it
any
to be
different?
fallible. So it's been proven by a reductio ad absurdum, which is a deductive method, that the contrary is impossible. So if you're going to say the law of identity is not true, how'd you identify that? So
Honestly,
I'm just going to work top.
with
Hello?
words here.
I'm just going to work top down from
I don't think what you're
the
saying
law of
actually
identity.
has any meaning. I think you're just masturbating.
Well, you don't know what meaning means anyway, so it doesn't really matter at this point if you're just going to throw ad homs. I'll just start now from the top, the law of identity. That would be I am that I am. Oh, look, in reality, I found a book that claims there is a I am that I am. Ah,
Well, I
It's
have
like a
to
million of
go
those, but okay.
just in time.
Good.
this
At
time.
Manufac.
Yeah, I gotta pick up my daughter. I'll catch you guys later.
Have a good one, man.
Yeah, thanks for the
Well,
meaningful conversation.
make sure you
I've
get
been
to
here
the
for like
place you
6
need to
hours.
go,
I need to
and
go
hopefully you're not wrong about it.
today, so I'm off as well.
Oh, great. Great. Thanks a lot, man. For absolutely nothing at all.
I was gonna ask if it's possible that possibility isn't the case, doesn't exist. That's usually a good way to start, like a reductio ad absurdum. That's a good one.
What do you possibly mean by possibility?
What do you possibly mean? Oh, that's a real
Yeah,
fire in the disco.
what do you mean? Oh, it's so beautiful, man. And when you have this foundation of making knowledge claims that are completely redundant and arbitrary from their perspective, how can you make any knowledge claims at all? Like, there's no truth, really. Truth is just arbitrary. Could be true or not. Whoop-de-doo.
To a degree of certainty, I know that I'm not sure if I agree with them.
Indeed.
It is a real fire in the disco.
What's the meme from the Adam Sandler movie? Remember? The guy. The room is not dumber for having listened to you speak, or whatever that is. That's my feeling right now. Dealing with these epistemic nihilists.